Well, hello again from here at Whitley Park. Now, I do know that some of you expat viewers do enjoy the little weather updates I provide. And honestly, guys, it's lovely here today, hence the wet bandit gloves are at home. And the Frank Lampard gilet has stayed in the cupboard too. But while it is nice here, behind those trees, it hasn't been a good week for Newcastle United. Pretty devastating, some of the news to come out for Eddie Howe and for the club with regards to their prospects at Wembley and beyond that quest to get back into the Champions League. Now, I'm going to run through the news, what it is, what it all means. And amidst that, guys, I promise there is some positives to take. And then I'm going to arrive at what I would do down at West Ham on Monday, what I would then do by extension at Wembley. So a hell of a lot to get through. Where to start on the back of the past few days? Quite incredible, really. We came out of the game against Brighton on Sunday, which in itself, and I did the update from my hotel room at the football writers' dinner in my tux, back in the casual civvies today. And it wasn't good. There was a real negative vibe about it. And I went down to the dinner that night, and again, it spread into that, really, the nature of the defeat, the loss of Anthony Gordon. And fair play to Eddie, he sat through the whole dinner there, collected Alexander Isak's Player of the Year award on the back of it. You know, the elephant in the room was that Isak wasn't there and he'd come off late in the game. What was the latest on his fitness? Well, I'll give you that in just a second. That might just be the positive stuff. But first of all, it was the news I broke on Wednesday night that Sven Botman needs surgery on his knee. Now, it's not all bad on this. It's not the ACL injury. It is the opposite knee. He's going to be missing now for around 8 weeks. Now, will that mean Sven Botman's season is over? 8 weeks takes us up to early May. This season finishes mid to late May. So by my reckoning, and the word I've had this week is that no risks will be taken. But I do think they need to give the player that hope. That's why Eddie Howe has just said to us in there that, yes, there is a chance he will play again this season. But for now, he's out of the Carabao Cup final and he joins Lewis Hall as well. It was the news I broke 24 hours earlier on Tuesday. Yeah, guys, it wasn't a good week in terms of everything that was coming out. But whether it's good or bad, as a journalist, you've got to put the news out there. That's your job. You guys want to know. In Lewis Hall on Tuesday, it was confirmed that he would miss the Carabao Cup final with the ankle problem. The club then released a statement the following morning saying that Lewis Hall would have surgery. Now, his season is definitely over. And what a blow that is, given the form he has been in, that he was going to probably be in Thomas Tuchel's first England squad next week. My understanding is they'd been playing with a little bit of a knock, a little bit of issue for a few weeks. That would explain, perhaps, that little drop-off in form in some games. For me, he'd stopped being that aggressive player who engaged with his winger, who took that destiny in his own hands, really. You know, when he first came into the team last season, Hall was a little bit subservient at times, if you like, stood off. You know, I use that word, engage. He changed. No, he was in control. He was driving forward. He was putting wingers on the back foot. Just once or twice recently, those games where he was backing off. I'm not going to go too far because I will fall down there beyond the seats. So yeah, there was something for me that was there, not quite right. Then, as the information comes out, he's been carrying this little bit of a problem. The player himself wanted to carry on. He wanted to play through the pain. But when they saw the specialist opinion, and you're talking about a very promising career here of a 20-year-old, the decision was taken that it was best to have surgery. That's Lewis Hall out for the season. Sven Botman, as I say, the news is okay. At least it's not a recurrence of that ACL when you're looking at 10 months as opposed to 8 weeks. So there is a chance he comes back. But I honestly do believe for such an important player as well, why would any risks be taken? Alexander Isak, the third injury out. Well, yeah, it's good news on him. Good in that Eddie Howe this morning has said he's fine. It was my question to him. He's fine. He's okay. He's trained this week. There was a follow-up question by a colleague a little bit after that. And he rode back ever so slightly. I have to say this. He said, no, fingers crossed he'll play down at West Ham. He'll play at Wembley. And if he's fit, he will play. That's the best way to keep players like Isak in the groove. You don't wrap them up in cotton wool. They are finely tuned athletes. You put them in. So we've got to take Eddie at face value on that. But there has been one or two little murmurings that Isak might not be at that 100% peak sharpness. So the next few days we'll be telling him that. I've still got a couple of training sessions to go. But if Isak is okay, put him in against West Ham and let him go. You know, I've spoken so many times about that distraction of the Carabao Cup. It cannot distract from the Champions League and the need to get back in that top 5. And that was brought home this week by the time we had with Darren Eales, and we went through the accounts with him. And yes, they're encouraging. There's some improvement there. But this season, without the Champions League, I'd expect next year's accounts, some of those numbers to actually drop off. So while they are heading on an upward trajectory, revenues have improved. It was evident when we left that chat with Darren, there still is a long way to go. And what is going to be the biggest driver, the biggest accelerant to bridging that gap and allowing the club to push back on PSR and bringing the players they want to bring in this summer, well, that is going to be Champions League football. So to that end, West Ham on Monday is absolutely huge, a really winnable game for Newcastle. So if Isak's fit, play Isak. Now Anthony Gordon, he won't be there. Sent off. I said what I did after the game on Sunday. A player, a person I've got all the time in the world for. But Gordon was stupid what he did. The club looked at it and subsequently decided that an appeal wasn't worthwhile, and I would go along with that. So Gordon's missing for the next 3. Hall the rest of the season. Botman 8 weeks. And that news came like dominoes, one on the back of the other. Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So yeah, Eddie Howe just in sight of us has said, well, yeah, I've had better weeks, and you understand why. But, and here's the but and the positives, I'm going to try to extrapolate from it. Because sometimes from situations of such adversity, a siege mentality can be engendered, us against the world, and I really believe that is what those on the inside, they'll be trying to do, and what they have to do, really. Because if you looked at the situation prior to the loss of Gordon, Botman, Hall for Wembley, there was increasingly just a little bit of a bad, uneasy feel, smell around the team, around the place, in the stands, that feeling of unease going into another final where Newcastle weren't going into it in the best place, like 2 years ago against Manchester United. Now, while of course, I'm not saying any of this is good news, the loss of those 3 players, but sometimes it can just sort of flick a switch in a narrative, and those players who were perhaps starting to feel a little bit sorry for themselves, and I've outlined the reasons for that a lot in recent videos in terms of the bigger picture at the club. No signings, no stadium, no training ground, no real communication between the dressing room and above, and just a little notion of quite a few of those bigger names being unsettled. Eddie said it himself on the record coming out of last summer. There has been a few issues there this season. Well, if all of that was just starting to seep in and become apparent on the pitch, has the bad news of this week not just relegated that? And again, you might think I'm clutching at straws here, blown all that to the side, and it's a case of, right, okay, there's only 16 or 17 of us now. Let's come together, and I use that word, it engenders that band of brothers feeling, and I think that's what they've got to cling to now. When you watch the game on Wednesday night, Liverpool against Paris Saint-Germain. Now, Liverpool might seem as if they're in a wonderful place. This game against PSG, it was not classic European performance, go away, backs to the wall, soak it up, get a goal. Liverpool got battered, they really were. PSG were just bigger, faster, stronger, quicker. It was quite incredible, really, how far superior PSG were to Liverpool. Now, that ordinarily, ideally, is probably how Eddie Howe would have liked to have approached it in the final, with those players at the top of the game, like they were during that 9-match winning run, like they've taken games to Liverpool and Arsenal previously, on the front foot, make it about us, is what Eddie Howe says. Well, he can't do that now, and he's got to find a different way. And this is the team I would name tomorrow if it was Wembley. Now, I think you should do it against West Ham as well. Allow this formation, this personnel, to go into the game and build a little bit of momentum, build that feel good going into Wembley. Now, in goal, Martin Dubravka. Nick Pope came back in 2 or 3 games ago, played a couple of matches, and it was absolutely, for me, it was with the intent of Pope building that form, fitness, confidence ahead of Wembley. It quickly became apparent that it might take a lot more than 2 or 3 games for Nick Pope to get there. Martin Dubravka came back in, and I think that is with a view to West Ham, to Wembley and beyond for the rest of the season even. It's now Martin Dubravka's shirt. I think that is the right call. Dubravka was good against Brighton last week. At right back, now the loss of Lewis Hall gives Eddie Howe a big decision on the left. I would play Kieran Trippier at right back. I just think now, for these big games, these big occasions, and every one between now and the end of the season is going to be that. And Trippier proved it. He showed it against Arsenal in that Carabao Cup semi-final. I love Kieran Trippier. If you're talking about instrumental, influential signings in the history of the club, I'd have him up there on the podium. That's another video for another day. I would play Kieran Trippier at right back. The 2 centre-halves, and this speaks to the formation, not 3 centre-halves. If Sven Botman was fit, I would have gone, I think Eddie would have gone with the 5-2-3 we saw against Arsenal in that Carabao Cup semi-final second leg that worked so well. I think that would have been a good system, a good approach against Liverpool. Not possible now Botman's not there, and I wouldn't necessarily put Kraft, Burn and Share as a 3. So to that end, you've got the 2 at the back, Shea and Byrne, they pick themselves. Then who goes to left back? Well, I think you can tell by who I put it. Right back, it wouldn't be Matt Targett. It's Tino Livramento goes out to that side. Now, Livramento, when he's up against Mo Salah, which he will be in that final, well, Salah cuts in on his left foot all the time, so to have Tino Livramento, a right footer there, isn't necessarily the worst thing. And Livramento's got pace. And I think when you simplify things down with Livramento, just give him a task, I don't necessarily think he's the most complex footballer in the world. He's not Kieran Trippier. Kieran Trippier's a real thinker. He's got those yards in his head. But if you say to Livramento, your job is him, Mo Salah, use that pace that you've got up against him. Now, I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing. So Livramento up against Salah, left back, then into midfield. Well, the midfield really now, Joe Linton is back, again, should pick itself. Now, do you then put Joe Linton up wide on the left? No, I wouldn't. We spoke about how good that midfield was during that 9-match winning run. Bruno to the right of it, Tonali in the middle, Joe Linton on the left. Get the band back together and let them feel that positivity they had. Let them rediscover that potentially down at West Ham. I would put those three in the midfield. Then up front, there's a big decision to make. So on the right is Jacob Murphy, of course it is. Through the middle, Alexander Isak. Then on the left, I don't think it will be Harvey Barnes, because in playing Harvey Barnes from the start, you then can't bring him on. And Harvey Barnes has proven, and you might not like this, but Harvey Barnes has actually proven himself to be more impactful from the bench this season than when he starts. It doesn't necessarily work. Last Sunday against Brighton, he did okay, but drifted out to the left. His best moments actually come when Newcastle were playing with two left wingers, when Barnes and Gordon were almost on top of each other. I wouldn't start Barnes. I would put Joe Willock in there. I think he showed a couple of games ago that running power out wide on the left against Nottingham Forest. He was just tremendous. That's the first time we've seen Joe Willock at that level for the best part of 2 years, I think. And I would put him in that domain up against who? Trent Alexander-Arnold. Alexander-Arnold does not like wingers with drive, with purpose, running behind them. He doesn't, and Newcastle didn't expose that when they played them down in Anfield. Anthony Gordon, for whatever reason, did play a little bit within himself, and Gordon's form has been up and down. Now, do I believe Gordon would have saved something and produced something in a final? Absolutely. He's proven himself to be that sort of big game player. But if you are trying to extrapolate positives, and I said at the start of this video, I would attempt to, well, I think Joe Willock can provide Alexander-Arnold with some problems, as he can West Ham on Monday night. So there you go, Eddie, if you're watching, if you've got this far, that would be my team to take Newcastle into what now is a little 2-game mini-series, 2 huge games before that international break. West Ham and then the cup final. So for all of the bad news this week, I really don't believe that all hope is lost. And in a strange, perverse way, from what are perceived as these negative, rough situations, often a positive can emerge together, and that's what they've got to cling to, and that's what I fancy they might just, and it starts down at West Ham. West Ham's important. West Ham isn't the game in isolation. West Ham could yet colour what happens in the cup final. So to that end, Eddie, play your best team, play the team you're going to play at Wembley, and go for it, and go and beat West Ham, and go into the final feeling good about being back in that top 5. So there you go, guys. Now, by way of a prediction, I'll be down at West Ham. I'm going to go for it. I can't give that video and not say they're going to go there and win. It might be a scruffy, scrappy, not great to watch 2-1, but that would be okay. But yeah, I'm going to go for that away victory. Now, thank you for getting this far, guys. I dare say when you logged on, it might have been a video you weren't necessarily looking forward to, given the news that has come out from the training ground there this week. Now, what else has there been this week? Like I say, at Mail Sport, we broke the news about Lewis Hall and then Sven Botman, and we spoke to Darren Eales, of course, in between all of that. And there was a lot on Alexander Isak, and Eales was quite strong in terms of reiterating the story I wrote a couple of weeks ago. Newcastle don't want to allow their best players to go anywhere this summer. 3 times Eales used the phrase, they're on long-term contracts. The message was clear. They're not in a position whereby they have to sell them, and that the players have got those long-term deals. They are committed to the club, and there will be that effort to keep them here. Darren used the phrase, it would be crazy to consider selling them. But for all of that, and this was what I revealed in my Newcastle Confidential column yesterday, a link below the line, Newcastle are still looking, they are still scouring the market for strikers, because you've got to have those contingency plans in place. And if Newcastle don't qualify for the Champions League, while the club nonetheless do have that intention to sit down with Alexander Isak at the end of the season and discuss a new contract. There's 2 things there. We don't know if Alexander actually wants a new contract, and 2, can Newcastle go to the levels he wants and he deserves in terms of those numbers. There's still so much to be determined with regards to Isak and his future. But crucially, and this was the message we got from Darren Eales is that, yes, the ambition, the intent, the will, the desire is to 100% keep Alexander Isak. But as I wrote in my column, they are still looking for strikers there. And a few of the names, Jonathan David, Liam Delap, Benjamin Sesko, they've all been watched in recent months. I don't think they're to come in if Isak stays. I think it's only in the eventuality of Isak potentially going. So, yeah, guys, but he's here for now. He's fit. He's training behind those trees there. And fingers crossed, he is okay for Monday and then into the final. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit like, comment, subscribe. What do you make of the news this week? Would you risk Sven Botman between now and the end of the season? I don't think they will. I don't think they should. What would your team be? I've gone through mine there as the way forward for the next 2 matches. Tell me what you would do. Am I right? Am I wrong? I'll see you again from the London Stadium on Monday night. Okay, guys, take care. Bye-bye.